Hi, this is Fred Copestake, your host to the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast. Based on the book, the podcast explores how sales professionals can use the power of partnering intelligence to take their selling to the next level. By combining the skills associated with better partnering and existing best practice, salespeople can ensure their approach is more modern and collaborative. There are 6 elements to PQ, and in each episode we look at how sales professionals have used these and how their insights can contribute to your success. And welcome to this episode of Selling Through Partnering Skills. On this episode, I've got Warwick Brown, who is the Key Account Consultant at Cam Club. He's also the founder at Account Management Tips. So, Warwick, what do you specialise in?
Sorry, what do I specialise in, Fred? Key account management, that's what I live and breathe. So delighted to be here. Thank you for having me along for this episode. Appreciate it.
Could you just talk us through a little bit about the differences between those two things? And it's obviously account management being a big focus today.
Absolutely. So I won't bore you too long with my origin story, but a couple of years ago, I was sort of at a ceiling at the company that I was working for, and I was really frustrated at being pigeonholed by industry. So I started just this personal branding journey of blogging and putting out content related to account management, because I was like, I need to get a new job and I want to get it in some other industry besides the one I was in. But after doing that for a little while, people start to notice you, people start to reach out, they ask you questions, they invite you to do things. And from that, Account Manager Tips was born, which is essentially now become my consulting training branch around helping organizations grow revenue and reduce churn. And we do that through consulting and through training and through giving their account management teams the tools and mindset to get results. On the other side, I have a lot of self-motivated individuals that are career-orientated, that are ambitious, or that are potentially part of a smaller company, startups. They may in fact be the only account manager, and then we're struggling for support processes, systems, mentorship, coaching. And from that, I launched the Cam Club in October last year, which is basically for individuals and, across both businesses, my guiding mission is to help busy account managers get results. So the focus is on quick, simple, easy tactics that are sustainable, simple to implement, but, focused on results and outcomes. So they're kind of the two businesses, and that's how they work. One is sort of digital, online, learning-based, private community, membership-based, subscription-based. The other is, a little bit more organizational-based, around specific coaching and training and consulting programs. Perfect.
That's really interesting. They're both interesting, but the Cam Club, where the sort of the lone account manager has got somewhere to go, because that's actually quite common, isn't it?
Remarkably common. When I first launched it, I thought, who's going to buy this? Like, who'd pay for that? But I am absolutely surprised, overwhelmed, and overjoyed that there is a market for it, and that I'm actually serving a really unmet need. I mean, account management in general is very underserved. Sales is sexy. Sales gets all the attention in terms of budget, in terms of resource, in terms of attention from the business. There's nothing sexier than winning a big chunk of business from the competition. Keeping the business, not so sexy. That takes time, energy, effort, process, systems, discipline, and it's over a long time. So I find that space is very underserved, and there are millions of account managers in the world, and they all need support. And I'm surprised at how many have come to me with, I need help, I don't have help. And somebody actually left a comment on one of my posts, somebody on my list that sent me an email or a survey result, I think, saying, I have bad managers and I get no support and I get no training. And I'm like, that's not uncommon. I'm hearing this a lot and no surprise. I don't necessarily think they're bad managers, but when you're a growth, acquisition, volume, trying to make a dent in the market, grabbing market share, that's got to be your focus. You need the turnover to drive the business forward. Very commercially minded, often owner operated, very focused on new business. You're left to your own devices when it's about keeping a client. So I'm really pleased that I've now got a space for people to go to.
No, again, I'm just thinking. I've had 2 conversations the last couple of weeks with people like this, who feel that we're just treated like, oh, it's big sales. go and do big sales. And yeah, there are some elements, aren't there, which would cross in, but the list that you reeled off very, very eloquently, that's what account managers need. So, oh no, fantastic. And I mean, the elements of PQ, so partnering skills, will absolutely align with account management. I mean, for me, it works for partner managers, people actually have that title. I'm very much using it to focus in on people who are in direct sales, because I think it gives that veneer, that kind of mindset that's going to help them sell better. But into the world of account management, absolutely these things will dovetail beautifully, I suspect.
It's absolutely the foundation of account management. If you want to ever get out of that position of supplier, if you ever want to find yourself being seen as an expert or somebody that they can rely on for advice, or, I mean, there's nothing better. My absolute favorite thing with a client is when they come to me and they say, listen, Warwick, what do you think? Or somebody in my team's told me this, I'm not convinced. What do you think? I'm like, bingo, I've made it. That is when I know my client trusts me. I have established credibility. They see me as a partner, somebody that's integral to their success in whatever small way, whatever contribution I'm making, but they recognize that I'm important I'm an important component. I might be a bolt, I might be a nut, I might be, a screw, I might be some veneer, but at least I'm part of that machine. So, and to sustain a relationship and a partnership over years, over time, takes that partnership orientation. And it's taking what the sales team have learned about the client and about the solutions that they can offer at the beginning of the relationship, and then leveraging that to take it even further when they become customers.
Brilliant. So we will break down the elements of PQ and really, let's put the focus on account management very specifically. And salespeople will be able to take, pure sales or direct sales, whatever you want to call them. We'll take some of the hints, but we'll do a proper little shout out. We'll promote this to the account managers out there.
Woohoo! Yeah, we get the spotlight for a change.
We get the spotlight on the account management. So let's have a think then. So whenever I'm doing these interviews, I'll always start with trust. It just makes most sense to me when we're talking about the elements, because it does run all the way through, and it's the foundation for relationships and all the rest of it. So thinking about trust as an account manager, how can we sort of consciously try to develop that? How can we use that to strengthen the relationships?
Absolutely. Again, it's a foundation. Firstly, you need to do what you say what you do, so you need to have a system in place to be accountable back to your client, and also to encourage them to be accountable back to you. So however you do task management, however you do account planning, but that needs to be there, because there's nothing that undermines trust faster than constantly missing deadlines, or half delivering projects, or missing big gaps in something because you didn't take the time to actually plan things out properly. So that's certainly a big element of it. Another element that I think is vastly underestimated is the power of research, and really not just your industry, but actually your client's industry. I have worked in my time construction, finance, retail banking, investment banking, professional services, fast-moving consumer goods, pharmaceutical, every industry. And I've always invested time in learning about those. Not deep, but enough that I know some of the headlines. If I'm talking about pharmaceutical, I know the impact of blockbuster drugs and when things go off patent, and how they do their recruitment and their kind of involvement with universities and corporate research and all sorts of things like that. Those little things help me talk the right language, ask the right questions, and infiltrate and sort of build networks within an organization, because people know, okay, I'm invested in them. It's not about, me saying, I want you to buy my stuff. It's about me. What do I know about you? What can I learn about you? What's going on in the industry? And also, you would be surprised you wouldn't, but I mean, many people probably wouldn't, how few people, even in their own industry, don't have time to do any of that research. I have often shared white papers, case studies from Gartner, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, Oliver Wyman, that they've never even read or didn't know about. And I've highlighted to them some things that are going on in that space. Surveys by CPOs, surveys by CSOs, surveys by CEOs. Is that happening in your industry? Is that an impact to you? What's your thought on this trend that, PwC say are going to impact your industry in 2021? Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, well, here it is, page 12. Here's a nice chart. What do you think? Simple, but
wow,
we don't allow ourselves that time. We feel guilty. If we're surfing the web in our day job, we're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I should be calling, I should be meeting people, I should be doing something else, or my inbox is overflowing. So why am I spending 2 hours reading a study by PwC? But ultimately, when you're talking about trust, those are the things that can help build that credibility and earn that trust with clients. So they're kind of things. And I guess one more is just to be a little bit vulnerable. So not vulnerable in terms of, oh my God, I just broke up with my girlfriend last week and I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm leaving out of my car. Not that kind of oversharing vulnerable, but vulnerable in the sense of, if your client knows something that you don't, if they are an expert, seek out some advice from them. Show them that you're as eager to learn from them as you are to share what you know. And people love to be acknowledged for experts and love to be able to share things that they know. And if you can say, I know you did that project. How would you set up a project if you were going to do something similar? Because I'm working on something. I'd love to get how, the pros and cons of that from you. Even if it's not business related necessarily, like specific to a sale or something else, it can, again, build trust. Long answer, but anyway, that's kind of a few things.
It's actually a very succinct and elegant answer when we're talking about trust. We could talk the rest of the day on just this one element, but I think those three things you've given are brilliant, and then you can combine them. It's, here's a report, what's your opinion on it? I mean, happy days. The stature, the way that you're viewed as an account manager can only grow, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to, where I think we often come undone in account management, sales are often seen as experts because their sole goal is to position the value of your company and to link it to solutions or challenges or opportunities that a prospect is having. When you're in account management, a big chunk of your day is taken up with just day-to-day crap. Things that are going wrong, putting the wheels back on things that, that wheels that fell off, stepping in to address problems, to minimize escalations. You're very day-to-day operationally focused. A, that can be distracting because it's urgent but not important. B, it can also diminish your stature in terms of how clients see you. I've seen account managers that go from negotiating with this chief procurement officer to training Doris at reception on how to use the booking tool. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I don't want to mitigate or minimize the impact of those training roles, but if you want to be seen as a peer of somebody that is senior and executive and somebody that has ultimate decision-making and budget holding authority, they're not going to view you. The sad reality of business is that they're not going to see you as an equal if you are in there handing out muffins in the tea room, waiting for people to turn up to watch a demo. They just aren't. So a big part of why I feel those things around trust, around research, around recommendations, establishing expertise, is so you can get to that point where you're not having to bring in your boss or the GM or the VP to do the negotiating because they don't see you as somebody that's, capable or has the power or the authority to say yes, to say no.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm scribbling, you can see that I'm scribbling a lot down as we're doing this, and I'm just thinking that we could take the transcript and we could take out every time you said account management and put sales in, and it would do them no harm whatsoever. Those things you said are just solid ways to operate. So really cool. So let's move on. So if I'm going to get 3 for the price of 1, 3 tips for the price of 1 on every on every one of these elements, this is great. But no pressure. No. So thinking about the sort of this win-win orientation. In fact, we are thinking about it already, aren't we? Because that's what you're indicating in the way that you're trying to build trust. So would you add anything into that as other things we can do just to ensure we're getting mutual benefit?
Look, a lot of strategy is around that zero-sum game. For me to win, you have to lose. And that's often why procurement are brought in. They're to source. They don't manage the contracts once they've won the business that hands back to the person that, needed the product or service to begin with. They're really kind of brought in many ways to do that. I think it's a lot of work to create that relationship where a client is ready to bring to lose something or compromise on something in order for you to also gain something. So I definitely think some secrets to that are joint account planning. So many people do account plans and they're internal. They're invisible to anybody, including the client. Where's the harm? If you say to a client, my goal is to expand your business and I want to get your markets in the north and in the south and also over in Europe, you don't have to keep that a secret. There's nothing wrong with letting them know, but tell them my job is to make sure that, you can't wait to sign that signature, that contract. I'm going to do my very best to prove to you that we're the right partner in those regions and those markets. So let's put that as a goal. Might be a stretch goal, might be a long-term goal, but let's get it out there and put it on the table. Let's also talk about short-term goals, mid-term goals. Don't keep it to yourself, because then it's your account plan. The client is not the center of that activity, that focus. It's about you, what you want to sell, what you want to get, your targets, your results, your KPIs, your retention figures. Client can care less about any of that. You want to connect with what the client's objectives are. The rest ends up sort of almost falling into place. You just focus on what they want to get. Invariably, you'll get what you want. I've just found that to be true, but having specific account plans, publish them, share them with clients, be accountable to them for them and them to you on getting those goals achieved, I think works really well.
Yeah, I can't agree more. They do not get done once a year and then live on a shelf. I mean, that's just a massive waste of time. Just don't bother doing it if that's your outlook. But what you're describing actually takes us into the next section anyway, which is, or the next element, because I mean they're all linked clearly. But interdependence, this element of teamwork. We're in this together, and I'm going to have to give a little bit. You're going to have to give a little bit. I'm going to have to give a bit of control at some stage. Yeah. So yes, I think the account plan works really well with that too. What other thoughts would you have around that kind of interdependence element and sort of bringing the teams perhaps together in a complex system?
Two things. One is ideation. So what I have found on reflection, when I look back at some of the relationships I've had with my clients, I'm the one coming up with all the ideas. I'm the one making all the suggestions. I'm the one solving all the problems. I'm the one that's committed. Client doesn't care less. They might say, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but they're just passively agreeing to everything that I'm suggesting. So trying to really almost get the client to come up with the idea themselves, even if it's your idea, but finding a way to almost make them, and there's a conversation we had in the CAM Club with one of the members the other week, and she was sort of reminding us about, if you can get the client to think it's their own idea, that's going to be the best way forward, versus you just saying, hey, this is a great idea, let's do it. And they go, yeah, well, sure, sounds good, put on the plan. And then it never gets lift off.
The plan, yeah, fine.
So that definitely, but also I think don't own the relationship yourself. There's that bow tie versus diamond, and you have, that kind of diamond bow tie, right? Is where you and your key contact are the only two talking, and then you go back to your respective organizations, repeat the message and then try and make things work, and you become a massive bottleneck, as well as very interdependent and the sole kind of movers and shakers of the whole relationship. I prefer that sort of diamond model where each of you are at the other end, orchestrating and connecting the right people together, having the right conversations, still being informed, still controlling the mission and the objectives, but not so day-to-day kind of just the two of you thrashing these things out. I think that helps that codependence. You get things done faster, you understand better, and you bring more people in that can kind of drive results.
Takes a lot more confidence, doesn't it, to run the diamond model?
Yeah, and
I think it's easy to be in the middle. You're there, and everything's going through you, and it's position of power, and well done. But actually, it's not well done. I think it's harder, but so much more effective. What do you say? Faster, understand better, more people driving towards the outcomes.
And look, the bow tie can work at the beginning. You want to be all over it like a rash in those first 90 days of having a new client. You're like, okay, let me be involved in every call, every implementation meeting, every workshop, every training, every roadshow. I'm there. But that's not business as usual. That's not the steady state you want to be in later. So you can even set that up with your client saying, look, first 90 days, I'm your account manager. I want to make sure things work smoothly, and that I'm all over every conversation, so that moving forward, when we get into, beyond whatever happens after your first 90 days, I've got context, but lay it out that that's not per usual. So I think it can be good at the beginning, but not, you might be a control freak, but that's not going to help you, except to have a nervous breakdown later. But
yeah, no, I think at the beginning you're right. Yeah, just to give them that confidence and say, I am looking over everything, but this is where we're going to go. Yeah, well, let's put it in the plan to show how we're going to make it like that, and we will get more from it. Brilliant. So the next thing, and again, like I say, all connected, but it's this concept of self-disclosure and feedback. And the way I look at this is it's almost like being honest with the customer and potentially saying things that are going to be hard for you to say, that a pure relationship builder wouldn't like to say, because they think, oh, yeah, I can't say that to them. Love your thoughts on that and how we might do that, or why it's so important.
I'm a big believer that, friendly, not friends. I think when you blur those lines, like you say, you can suddenly have those conflicts of interest. Oh, how are we supposed to catch up for a vino on Friday if I've just told them no to this thing? Or it can get really messy, But I agree with you. I think your role as an account manager and in sales is to have a point of view. It's not about having a pick a card, any card. It's about being confident in what you know about the client, what you know about your product, how the two work together, where those two things intersect. You should be the expert, and to confidently say to your client, no, I think that's a really bad idea. This is what I would recommend. If you decide to go down that route, then look, here's some contingencies, here's plan B, here's some risks. I'll support you. We can do it this way, but this is option A is the way I recommend. And it comes with negotiations. When people say, I want that for free. No, here's why. I want to have a price reduction because I've been with you. I'm not going to renew. I'm loyal. I should get a discount. I'm more like, well, you're loyal. I'll freeze the prices. I'm not going to increase them. How about that? Versus not decrease them. Whatever it is, that you have to be able to say no, and it comes from a place of confidence, of point of view, and obviously being able to read the room. But yeah, absolutely, you have to bring tough love. What's the point? Why are they having you otherwise?
Yeah.
You're just deferring the decisions back to them to make. So you've added no value.
But of course, if you've done your research, which you alluded to earlier, then you're from a position of strength, and this is my point of view, and I'll tell you why. Don't just go in rattling cages and being obnoxious, but this is why I'm being so strong with this, because this is what's happening in your industry. Look, let's unpack it together.
When you think about it, whether you're talking about sales, whether you're talking about account management, I had one client did not go to market in 10 years. I implement a new client in my team when I had 10 people. I was implementing a new client every other week across multiple industries, across multiple categories, across multiple spend. I know way more about that category than that person does. I mean, they know how to manage that category within their business, potentially, not always. But I transact as a supplier with clients buying my product or service every single day on a variety of levels and a variety of scales, a variety of problems, a variety of issues. I've got so much insight, so much benchmark, so much knowledge. I know more than they do. And I think account managers need to have the confidence that they are the experts. So when you say something, your clients kind of need to listen. But obviously it's all in the delivery. I'm not going to be in there guns blazing, pow, pow. This is how you make things happen. But,
now listen here. Have I
exactly
got something to tell you?
You're going to do this. But I'm passionate about it because I feel like there's so many people that don't get the message. It's like, you are the expert. Just know that, have that confidence. You're very unlikely to make a decision that is going to have the client tear up a contract. Even if you make some little boo-boos along the way or some missteps, they're usually recoverable. I don't think you want to kind of overthink. You do your homework, you check with the boss, you check with your colleagues about things that have happened before, you kind of model it out, see what plan, think about how they might react, what their objections would be, how you respond to them. The risk is pretty low,
Yeah. And if they're done with the right intent, which, why wouldn't they be? It's, it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering if this is, just thinking about the next, I'm just going down my list, if you like, to what degree this is connected with change and how comfortable people are with change. And actually, maybe not a mistake, it's just that it's different. And that's what people find hard. And so the account manager, stroke salesperson, that has to be something of a change agent and able to help people with that who might be resisting a bit.
Absolutely, that's the whole point. If you're not bringing, what is it? I had a conversation with somebody the other day. It's like change. Oh, they had a really great way of putting it. But anyway, you need to change to make progress and to have a different result. You can't continue to do today what you're doing today if you want a different result tomorrow. So you are absolutely a change agent. What people don't think about is planning that change. They just say, okay, we want to get from here to there, let's go. Well, there are a huge number of factors that you have to think about that. There's often, there could be financial commitments, there might be budgeting restraints, there might be resource constraints, there might just be bad timing, they've got too much else going on. There could be fear, sometimes if you're asking a client to do something, they might have to stick their neck out politically, go to bat for you or put their neck on the line. Maybe they don't have the skills. Maybe they have some gaps in terms of confidence and their ability to deliver that message on your behalf within the organization. So change isn't as simple as everyone knowing it's a good idea. Otherwise, we'd all do the things that are in our best interest. It doesn't work like that. You can say, I had a client once, I said, I can make you $1 million actually. But their model was, we get this like back-end rebate. And it looked good on the P&L because they got checks coming in. So they didn't want to move to a model where it kind of was all up front because it would be invisible on the books. But I'm like, but this is going to save you 10x. They weren't going to go for it. It took a huge amount of work for me to convince them. And I had to kind of go around the back door and talk to other people. And because they were like, no, I say to my boss, I've made £100,000 this year, so I look good. I get my bonus. I don't want to have that conversation about telling them I'm not making 100,000 anymore in cash, in like income, versus, oh, well, we'll save $1 million. He was motivated for that. You know what I mean? Saving $1 million just means I'm not spending as much. How is he going to necessarily get rewarded for that or acknowledged for that or remunerated or compensated for that? So that's just one example of how it looks on paper. It like is the best idea. There's still a lot of hurdles to make that happen and things you've got to think about.
There is, and I mean, the list again, you very eloquently reeled off. Fear, risk, those emotional elements. I mean, there's a whole show, there's a whole day's worth of talking about how we deal with just that emotional side, because people talk to you about the rational bit, won't they? But we know that the emotion drives motion, really. So,
and you have to really dig into what, there's a great thing called the Bain B2B elements of value, and they identified 40 qualities of things that people value. And they talk about the table stakes, which is like, okay, is it ethical? Is it, does it do what it says on the tin? Then you move into more of those ease of doing business, like integration, simplicity, less hassles. Then you move into some of more intrinsic things like, could this benefit my career? Will I get personal rewards from this? And then there's more of the sort of altruistic things like charity and, so footprints and, all that CSR, all that sort of stuff. But you've got to acknowledge that there are always going to be personal drivers. One of the things I always ask my clients is, how are you gold? What are you measured on? What does your boss expect you to achieve at the end of the year? What's that conversation going to look like when you have your performance review? And how can I help? In whatever small way can I help make that happen? If I start there, it gets trust, wins confidence. I help them achieve a personal goal, which means they're going to be much more, interested in talking to me. And also I get some insights into what's going on in their world. Are they overwhelmed? What kind of other responsibilities do they have? How much time do they have to spend on my category and working with me as a supplier? How can I kind of learn more about that? So when I want to try and get them to do stuff, I can figure out an angle, or I can pick my timing, or I can message it in a way that will get them to pay attention.
Yeah, that Bain piece of work is amazing. I love that. I love it. We'll pop a link to it in the notes. Harvard Business Review did a really nice, succinct piece on it, which is cool. Yeah, we'll do that. How can I help? I mean, such a simple question. Which, again, just keeping us moving. We're kind of into that future orientation. I mean, you kind of have to talk sequentially, but these things are so intertwined, aren't they? So much of the stuff you're saying is getting someone to where they want to be, looking at the growth that they want or the changes they want or whatever. So again, what can people do? How can we become more future oriented?
I think definitely account planning helps because you're talking about the future. Its very nature is about assuming you will still be there as a partner in a year from now or 2 years from now. If you're talking about a 3-year plan, well, obviously for a big client, you're probably not a small one, you're going to have the plans that long ranging, but yeah, the assumption is you'll be there to execute it. I also think a lot of account managers are afraid of renewals. They see that contract expiry date. They know there's some auto rollovers or it's evergreen. They're like, maybe I won't mention it. If they don't say anything, I won't say anything. Like, it just isn't going to, we'll just sort of pretend it's not happening. I'm a big fan of I want a commitment. I'm not happy with evergreen rollover, forever and a day contracts with no triggers, no reason to ever renegotiate or talk contract except for, the goodwill of my client. I'm like, no, let's talk about what things are going to look like in 3 years from now. Our contract is up in 2021. Let me find out what gaps I need to close. What is going to make you renew? What do I need to do to give you the confidence to sign that contract? Let's talk now. Let's lay out the plans, do it together. You may start internally to kind of line up your ducks, but I'm always talking about the future with my clients about, okay, a contract's up for renewal. What's that look like? Oh, you've got a contract expiring in another country. We're not your supplier. How do I get in there? Oh, we've got plans in place. Let's not make them 3 months. Let's make them 2 years. Let's be ambitious. Let's talk more about next year and the year after. It's definitely about having that sort of intentional focus on the future.
Yeah. Good planning has got a lot to be responsible for. No, sorry. Good planning can be responsible for a lot, actually, would be a more accurate way of saying that, perhaps.
Well, I think one thing to kind of acknowledge is that both in sales and account management, they're often under-resourced. So this all sounds great on paper, and I would love to say every client, every time I follow every one of these steps and I go to the end of the earth in terms of my planning and my preparation. It doesn't work like that. I've turned up to meetings where I've winged it. I've literally had to quickly scan who was in the meeting because I hadn't even had time to look at who's going to be attending. Like, not ideal, but look, it happens. Sometimes I'm pulled here and last minute the boss yanks me in for something and suddenly all my planning goes out the window. That's the exception though, not the rule. As long as I know that that's rarely happening or I've done some level of prep, but we have to acknowledge that people are under-resourced, overstretched. Suddenly, okay, you haven't met your quarterly targets. Now the boss is on your back and now you're suddenly looking at dodgy deals. Your prep goes out the window because you don't care who you win as long as you sign some contracts because somebody's cracking their whip. You're an account manager and it's just 10 more accounts and we're not hiring, there's a staff freeze, even though the person that was doing, then somebody leaves, we're not replacing them till next year. So, all right, now I'm already doing more work than I should be. Plus so-and-so left. Now we're spreading her accounts. And now something's got to give. And then obviously there's a real lack of training and investment in tools, technology, resources that both sales and account management don't always get. I know I'm doing a piece right now about sales. A lot of account managers don't get LinkedIn Sales Navigator because it's expensive. It's £60 a month or whatever it is. People are like, oh, you don't need that. We've got the business. Well, yes, you do, because you can easily find your clients and engage with them on LinkedIn. You still need to grow your network. You still need to potentially find new business. If you're talking about new cost centers, new business units, new sister companies, parent companies, other markets. Why is the company shortchanging you as an account manager to not give you LinkedIn Sales Navigator when sales have it? Oh, because that's sales. It's new business. But, I could give you a million examples where people don't have things like that. Sales, they don't have access to automation. So they're still having to send their own emails. They can't do some automated nurture marketing campaigns. Account managers don't have that. So every time they want to engage with a client, they've got to type out a manual email, cut and paste from some template somewhere if they've saved it even. Silly stuff that really would help them that, there is an underinvestment in. And then, of course, training, there's very little of that. And
Of course we're going to say that. That's not going to surprise anybody.
No, but I'm reading a book. There's a book called How Clients Buy. And it's really interesting. It's about professional services, but I think account management is a professional service. You've got to do your job. You've got to be able to recommend solutions that solve a client's problem. Your client has to have confidence you can implement and execute that solution. And then you've got to mobilize the team to deliver the solution. That's the same thing KPMG does. We do the same thing. But what they say in that is that in business schools, they don't teach sales. And I went and have a look at the Stanford University MBA program, not one module on sales. And that costs, $80,000. not one sales module. They probably lump it under marketing. You have to learn sales from the benefit of books or from experience, like the School of Hard Knocks, or from, the goodwill of your fellow colleagues that maybe take you under a wing, a coach or a mentor. Those very critical revenue growth engine roles in sales and account management are very underrepresented in terms of training opportunities. Our businesses aside, I just really feel that way, even when I was an account manager.
Yeah, you're right. But I had that exact conversation with a uni the other day. As you could imagine, promoting that maybe sales training within the faculty might not be a bad thing. But said, you'll train everything else and you want to equip the students to go out and get jobs. Very few of them from a business faculty will be going and getting a job where there is no sales function. So even if they're not going in sales, they need to understand what these strange beasts are doing, So hey, again, yet another different conversation. We should probably, let's save that for another day. That could be a special. I want to do some specials as my own future with the podcast develops. But while you're on then, so from a personal point of view, let's just think about the future. What's in store? What's in store for Warwick? What are you aiming to do?
Well, for me, I really want to grow the CAM Club. I mean, it's global, it's digital, it's leveraged. So it's an efficient business model for me, but also it's one that I can make a massive impact on. And I really, really enjoy helping people at that really micro level, that individual level. I'm very available in that platform. I do a lot of one-on-ones in there. I throw that in. It's only $23 a month because I want it to be affordable, because I've got a range of people from managers to kind of new starts in account management, and also got to respect that different currencies are stronger around the world. So I want somebody in South Africa to have just as much access as somebody in Singapore, as somebody in Australia, as somebody in the UK. So I try to keep it at a point where it's not going to break the bank. And then I'm enjoying some of the corporate training I'm doing. I really want to grow that as well. So yeah, it's just kind of continuing to move it forward. And finding ways to refine that message.
Brilliant. And how do people get in touch with you then?
So you can find me at Warwick A. Brown on all platforms. You can search the hashtag AMTips on all platforms, or you can just go to accountmanager.tips.
AMTips. Right, I'm about to activate all my platforms to find you on there. So, but no, that's brilliant. And what we'll do is we will put links to both account manager tips, AM tips, and to the CAM Club and your LinkedIn into notes so that people can get in touch.
Thank you.
I'm sure I know there's things you've said that people might want to explore a little bit further. You've been very generous, very, very generous with sharing your thoughts, sharing your knowledge. And I've got a bit of homework as a result of this as well. There's a couple of things in here that I thought, you know what, Fred, I think you just need to go away and check on that. So yeah, I signed in as a Cope Steak on some things. So you might see a certain A Cope Steak pop in on CAM Club.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Thanks to all the listeners. And yeah, please reach out. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. I'm one of those, lions. Happy to reach out and get to know people and help where I can. So yeah, please do.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast with me, Fred Copestake. If you liked it, why not leave a review? If you didn't, also leave one. Remember, it's all about the feedback. If you want to learn more about your own PQ, why not go to the book website, which is www.throughpartnering.co.uk, and there you can take a little self-audit. And of course, if you want to get in touch to talk about how you can use partnering skills, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So until next time, keep thinking about how you can adopt a more modern and collaborative approach to selling by selling through partnering skills.